Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Healthwatch South Tees podcast. The aim is to share some stories and information from amazing individuals, community organisations and charities that are making a real difference across Teesside and the wider region. My name is Stephen Liggett, one of the many Healthwatch community champions. I'm a stammerer and I work at South Tees Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust as a research project manager. And I am super lucky to host this podcast with the amazing Vicky Jackson, project coordinator at Healthwatch South Tees. These next two episodes of the podcast really do deserve their own introduction. Over the next two parts of the podcast, we take a deep dive into the IRIS project. IRIS, which stands for Identification and Referral to Improve Safety, is a collaboration between primary care and third sector organisations specialising in domestic abuse. General practice plays an integral role in addressing the issue of and transforming responses to domestic violence and abuse. And as you'll hear in the next two episodes of the podcast, the IRIS programme provides training, support, referral and advocacy to support general practice to better support their patients affected by domestic abuse. In this episode, part 2 of the IRIS podcast, I had the pleasure of speaking to Leanne Smith, advocate, educator and project lead for IRIS. And if you haven't already, please go back to listen to part 1, where myself and Vicky chat to Dr. Jen Standen, the clinical lead for IRIS. Throughout the podcast episodes, you'll hear contact details for My Sister's Place, one of the key partners in the IRIS project. You'll also hear more about the work of My Sister's Place. To contact them, you can phone 01642 241 864 or you can email reception@mysistersplace.co.uk. And as you'll hear more from Jen and from Leanne, you can contact your GP surgery or make an appointment with your GP and ask for the IRIS project. I can't thank Jen and Leanne enough for their time in recording this podcast, and we really hope you enjoy these next two episodes. First thing to say is thank you so much for joining the podcast, Leanne. It's great to have you on. Can you maybe explain your role generally and then how you got involved in this wonderful project?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast. So I've been working for My Sister's Place for around 7.5 years, and initially started at My Sister's Place working as an independent domestic violence advisor. But what we knew at My Sister's Place is that we used to get very few referrals from general practice. Mm-hmm. And the vast majority of the referrals that we get into My Sister's Place do come from police and self-referrals and then other agencies, but we knew health was really low down. So around 4.5 years ago, we started the IRIS project and we came together. This had been years in the making. So many years before that, there'd been a lot of desire to get this project, but we finally got it going at that time period. And I was already working for the service at the time. And I was really interested in being part of this piece of work where we looked to improve the amount of referrals that we got from general practice and just generally improved our working relationship with general practice and making sure that they felt really confident in what My Sister's Place could do for their patients and equally improve that referral pathway, make it really slick between us. So the main duties that I have within the project is going into general practice and meeting both clinicians and non-clinicians and developing some training with them, spending some time together with them, making sure that they feel confident on how to recognise domestic abuse in their patients, how to respond to that if somebody gives them a disclosure, what their safeguarding obligations would be, how they'd maybe risk assessing that in that moment, and then also how to record this properly on the system and how to refer it on. So there's quite a lot to get through in the training that we do with them. And then afterwards, I'm there as a point of contact for the practices, so they can come to me if they've got any questions, if they've got any concerns for their patients. But I'm also their named advocate. So what we've created is this pathway where not only can they say to their patients, we could refer you on to my sister's place, but actually we've got an advocate that works for us at our surgery. She could even come in and see you at the practice. Would you like a referral to that? And for people who are maybe just questioning whether their relationship is abusive or whether they've experienced abuse within a relationship, or, you know, maybe know what my sister's place are, but that maybe feels like just a bit too big a step to walk through the doors of our service. Hopefully what we're doing is just creating that safe space within the community that they can be seen at general practice, and I can go and reach out to them. I can see them there, and they can even potentially go to the surgery under the premise of the fact that they're going to a GP appointment, which may not arise suspicions if they are still in a relationship that's abusive. So that's the main part of my role.
Speaking to you and Jen, it's easy to see the benefits of this program, that you're training clinicians, but you're also raising this in the community. I was shocked about the types of abuse, you know, and how that's kind of changing with technology and surveillance of people and things. So it sounds like a great thing to bridge the gap, like you said, between someone kind of advocating for themselves to find support or a service, or using something as simple as an appointment at that practice to kind of seek support. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, awareness raising is a big part of it. What we've made sure now is that the practices that are working with us, they all have posters up within the surgery, so it can be really clear in terms of how they can get support, that patients feel more confident, that the surgery knows how to respond if they go in and talk to them about things that they're worried about. So that's a massive part of it. But actually, also, like you've just said, GPs and clinicians who are going to be speaking to patients, they've also become aware of all these different types of abuse.
Exactly.
And whilst it could be that somebody goes into the surgery and outrightly tells the GP that they're experiencing domestic abuse, it's unusual for somebody to do that. It's much more likely that somebody goes into the practice and might describe that they're feeling anxious. It may be that they're feeling really low moods. They may be struggling to sleep. They may be having some other physical health symptoms. And so it's really up to those clinicians to have that professional curiosity and ask. Because like you say, if you were getting stalked online or you were dealing with some financial abuse, it's really unlikely that you're going to come in and say that. But actually, you might come in and describe the impact of that. You might come in and describe how that's impacting your health. So it's up to those clinicians to think, okay, I'm going to ask a little bit more of my patient here as to what's going on. And actually, we know and what we have absolutely found out in the last 4.5 years is if you do ask the question and you outright ask a little bit more about what's going on at home, and maybe even describe controlling and coercive behaviour to the patient, you will get disclosures of domestic abuse.
So some of the data around this subject is really interesting, that people that are being abused do try to reach out through local services, but they're obviously scared or they're unsure to like outright say that they need support and help.
And there is some data that says that 80% of women who are experiencing domestic abuse will go to their GP as their first or only point of contact.
Yep.
So it's absolutely vital that GP practices know how to respond to that and how to do it. Because, you know, I've dealt with patients who've come and got some support from the IRIS programme, and they've heard of My Sister's Place before. They knew what it was about. They've maybe even professionally referred people to My Sister's Place. They just didn't necessarily realise it was for them or acknowledge that their own situation would benefit from specialist support. So again, that's where it's really useful for that outside person, that GP who's having a discussion with them, to kindly remind their patients that, you know, that their experiences matter, what's happening to them is not okay, and refer them on to specialist support where they need it.
You mentioned then the conversation, My Sister's Place. Just for those who are listening that don't know exactly what it is and the services it can offer, can you talk us through that, Leanne, maybe?
Yeah. So at My Sister's Place, we are an advocacy centre. We've been open for over 20 years in Middlesbrough. We used to be a service that just supported women victims of domestic abuse, but we've also now support male victims of domestic abuse as well. So there is support for both. We also do offer a therapy service, so we offer trauma therapy at My Sister's Place. So that's an option for people who've experienced domestic abuse at some point. But the types of support that we provide somebody is a safe space that they can just have a conversation with us. They're not going to be persuaded or forced into doing anything they don't want, that we're here wherever they are in their journey, whether they're still in that relationship and they're just thinking about whether this is domestic abuse, whether they know that this is domestic abuse and they want to talk about their safety and their options. We support people who want to leave potentially that relationship or end that relationship, or those that have left and that they're still experiencing problems following that post-separation abuse, or they need a bit of a recovery space. But we support people with absolutely loads of things to do with if you've been impacted by domestic abuse, but we've got economic abuse support workers to help people back on their feet. We support people to get legal appointments, whether that's with family law solicitors. Sometimes if they want to do that, we can help them report to the police. We help people with court matters, immigration issues. The list is endless. There's nothing, to be honest, there's nothing that I would say we absolutely don't do. But if you are experiencing it and that you've got an issue, you can come to us and we can have a chat with you, whether that's something we can help you with, or we can certainly signpost you to a service that would be able to help you with that.
It's fantastic that you offer all this support through one kind of centre, and you signpost and do all these amazing things. Jen was talking us through the numbers of people that you have supported. Have you got any examples of any kind of success stories through My Sister's Place or the Iris project?
Yeah, I mean, we've supported nearly 400 people through this project now. We've supported lots of people who are experiencing post-separation abuse. We've supported people to leave abusive relationships through this project. Some of those patients came to us and they didn't necessarily think that they were at high risk or weren't even sure whether we were the right service, and we were able to then collaborate and get a multi-agency response to the things that they needed. But yeah, we have had some success stories, and one of the things I'm most proud of during this project is how we've improved our response to older patients as well. So I think it's always hard to pick up the phone the first time and to potentially self-refer to our service. Everybody's encouraged to do that, but we absolutely recognise that could be difficult. But if you're an older patient, you might not necessarily recognise that that's the right service for yourself. It might feel a bit inaccessible. So one of the things I'm most proud of is how we've massively increased the amount of referrals that we get for older patients. As a result of that, I went and trained and qualified as an older person's violence advisor, just so that we could absolutely ensure that those patients that we were getting through Iris had that appropriate response to their needs and to their risks. And yeah, we've supported older patients to leave relationships where they absolutely didn't believe before that they had an option or that there was a way out of this situation. But Iris has actually created that opportunity for them.
Fantastic. I mean, you mentioned there the collaboration, which is obviously super important in a project like this. And the example there of how the projects are already evolving based on kind of the demographics of the people that you're supporting. So if it's older and you've trained and you can offer like an enhanced service for those types of people, where do you see the project maybe going to in the next couple of years?
Well, what's absolutely essential is at the moment, we've got Iris in 15 out of the 18 practices in Middlesbrough. So a priority of mine would be to try and secure some funding so that we have Iris in all 18 practices in Middlesbrough, and that would be something I would like to see. We are the only Iris site in the North East, so whilst Iris is a programme that is rolled out nationally, and there's pockets of the work that Iris does all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
We only actually have Middlesbrough in the North East that's commissioned, and I would love to see more of the work of Iris getting rolled out across the North East, because it works. And
Absolutely.
Ultimately, this is an evidence-based project. I strongly believe in doing things that work, and we've spent the last 4.5 years working tirelessly on this project to make it a success, and I would like to see that expanded and further, and potentially even look at other health settings where there could be disclosures. So sexual health is another place where it would be quite a key place to potentially get identification of domestic abuse within those patients and referrals. But quite interestingly, there's quite a lot of research to say that dentistry as well would also be quite a good place to get those disclosures of domestic abuse and potentially refer on. Lots of people who are experiencing domestic abuse will have facial injuries, they may have neck injuries, they may have dental injuries, and again, that is another key place where with the right skills and with the right experience and with the right questions, that you could potentially get a disclosure from somebody who's never told anybody before about domestic abuse.
Yeah, it was similar to the discussion we had with Jen, that there's a lot of healthcare workers themselves that experience abuse. So it's kind of, is there a way to get it into staff networks in the trust, like occupational health? Like these areas are kind of endless as is this support that you offer. You mentioned there, it does obviously require funding. Is the main obstacle to expanding the project and continuing the work?
Honestly, yes.
Yeah.
Is the answer to that. So we've got the willingness of GP practices to work with us. We've rolled it out to these 15 out of 18 practices in Middlesbrough, and what's stopping us from being able to fully roll it out at this point is funding. And there's just always that worry that the funding's going to end. So initially, when we did start out Iris, My Sister's Place actually made a significant contribution to the start-up costs. We had got some funding via the Comic Relief Big Night In, and also alongside Middlesbrough Council with some funding and some collaboration with partners, we got it set up. But since then, we've had to fundraise to get funding to continue this project. We've had some funding from Middlesbrough Council, who've been really supportive of the project, but again, that's on a year-by-year basis. And we've also received some funding from Changing Futures. But as it currently stands, there's no long-term funding for the project, so that's really hard for us to plan. Absolutely. That's really hard for us to even to roll out to other practices where you don't know beyond a certain amount of months whether it's going to continue. And up until now, we have continued it for 4.5 years, and I know we've got some supporters to this project, but it's really important that we get funding for this project for it to be able to continue. And it would just be such a shame now, and we have seen it in other boroughs. So there's been other areas where they've had it commissioned and then they've stopped commissioning the project. And there was in one area in London where that happened, and the referrals dropped by, I think it was 30 times worth of those referrals dropped because this project had ended. And that is absolutely the last thing that we want for this project in Middlesbrough, because the work's gone into it. We know it works, and we know that it's supporting patients who wouldn't get support otherwise without this project. But we do need funding for it to continue.
I totally agree. Like there's loads of evidence that suggests giving, like, starting off a service and then withdrawing it is often worse than not starting it in the first place, because word gets out that there is this available, and then if someone tries to access it and it's no longer there, the impact of that can be really, really bad. And
absolutely. And we don't want any loss of confidence in My Sister's Place, because My Sister's Place, what we've done is we've always got the offer that we've always had. This is an enhanced service that we're having. And yes, of course, we would support people if this service went, but it's whether they found us again. And we know they weren't finding us before. And it's whether those people can still find us, whether it's accessible for them. Because at the moment, through this project, I am often in GP surgeries. Mm-hmm. Most of my appointments actually occur at the surgeries. And I'm not sure that's something we would be able to continue to offer without specific funding for this project. So it feels hard to ever think that that's a possibility, mm-hmm. that we could potentially lose the funding and not be able to continue the project, but that is our reality.
Who needs to fund this then? Where's if anyone's listened to this from the council or commissioners or fundraisers, do you need lots of funding streams to keep this going?
I think honestly it's a health project, and I would hope and would like to work with health towards like some funding from health in relation to that, because we are providing the service within the health service.
Absolutely.
The staff are getting trained to what they need to be able to do in health, and then we also have that support for their staff members as well. So I would like that, but honestly, I like to see collaboration between services. I like to see joint commissioning. I like to see joint working together. Mm-hmm. And so it's just really important that we continue to work together with our stakeholders and with our partners to see how we can fund this together. But we have been really fortunate to have such support as we have from Middlesbrough Local Authority so far, who have really helped us keep high risk. They've been, we've had a lot of support from them, and also from the PCC's office, who I know have also been keen for this service to continue.
Thank you for your time. Just a couple more questions, if that's okay, Leanne.
Of course.
What has been the thing that's been the most surprising along the way working on this project when you've been supporting people? Is there anything that you didn't think would happen that has happened at the start of the project?
I think I'm still always, I've worked in this sector a long time, but I'm always still surprised by the scale and the numbers of people out there that need our support.
That's a really good point.
And so whilst I knew we were going to increase our referral numbers by doing this, I believed in the model before we started. I'm not sure that I could have believed that we would have increased it as much as we have in the 4.5 years. And as previously mentioned about supporting those older patients as well, I think that's pleasantly surprised me about how much we've been able to improve our offer for those people, and that we've been able to have some really good success stories for those people who didn't think there was maybe ever going to be a chance to get out of that. And I also reflect on the fact that we do meet people through the IRIS programme who have heard of My Sister's Place. It's not that they haven't heard of us. No. They know what we do. We're quite well established within Middlesbrough, with most people saying that they've heard of us, but they just haven't recognised it. It's for them. And so it helps us reflect on what we need to do to reach out to those people. That's a duty on us to think about how we reach them. But we know IRIS is one of those. That's one of our strategies to do that. And again, it works.
Totally, it's the education, it's the training, it's just a brilliant project.
Yeah, and I think what in terms of the training, what surprised me as well is that I think that there is other types of domestic abuse training out there. Like, it absolutely exists. But what's different between what we do with the IRIS training and other types of domestic abuse training is that we actually speak to clinicians about how are you going to bring this up in your appointment. So if you've got a patient that comes in and you might be suspecting that they're a victim of domestic abuse, or actually you might not even be suspecting it, but you've got somebody that's coming in with repeated health conditions that could be somebody that's experiencing domestic abuse, and quite common symptoms to those that are experiencing domestic abuse. What we're training them is, how are you going to bring this up with your patients? How are you going to bring this up into a conversation if they've come in and they're talking to you about depression, or they're talking to you about a gynecological issue, or they're coming in about something else? How are you going to bring up asking them about the home life. And that's what our training does. And I think that's what sets us apart from other types of training, because we can all come away from training knowing what domestic abuse is, but we actually need to be able to put that into practice, and we need to be able to confidently speak to our patients about it. And even when they're not speaking to us about it, how can we ask them about it? How do we raise it with them?
Absolutely. The word you use there is the confidence to do it. You know, as you say, we've all been on training where it often feels like you're just doing the training just to do it. And it sounds like the difference with yours is that you are given practical tools and like the support and the confidence to actually start these conversations in a way that is comfortable for you and the people that they're seeing in their GP practices.
And the positives for that is that we improve the patient care and we improve what we're delivering for that patient, but actually what there's also evidence about is that it improves things for the GP practice, because if we are ensuring that the patients are getting the right support at the right time, they're not going to keep representing at the practice and taking those much needed GP appointments that we know, that there's limited appointments, and we know there's lots of people who are trying to get appointments. And actually, if we've got our patients in the right care pathways, and if they are experiencing domestic abuse, and we've got that, there's lots of evidence to say that following IVA's intervention, that these patients don't attend the GP practice as much as they did before. And surely that's a good thing for everybody. That's a good thing for patients.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing for other patients, and it's a good thing for GP practices as well.
It's something that comes up on almost every podcast episode, is using this collaboration in the community that actually takes pressure off health services, whether it be primary care or secondary care. If there are services out there who can work together to like intervene early in the journey of anybody, it's only a good thing.
And we know how hard everybody's working, and we know that everybody wants the best for the patient. So it's exactly what you're saying. It's around that collaboration and how can we work together to best serve the people that we all want to help. And what I'm really pleased to say is that I feel we have created that. We've got really good relationships with the practices. We can book rooms to see them. We're getting referrals, and it's everything I hope that we could achieve. And like everything, there's always work to do. We're just at the point now where we're going back into practices and doing refresher training, because there's been new staff that have come in, or that there's been some time since we went in, and we can always improve. We can always do things, but it's everything we hoped it would turn out to be.
Fantastic. So how do people get in touch with My Sister's Place?
So if anybody wants to get in touch with My Sister's Place, we do have a website, so people can go on our website and have a look a little bit more at what we do. They can contact our main service on our main number. So our number is 01642 241 864. There might be somebody out there that thinks this may be better to get some support via the GP surgeries, via something like IRIS, that would suit them. So you can speak to your GP practice and ask them whether they're an IRIS practice, whether they can get a referral to My Sister's Place that way. They should be having posters up in the surgery. It's often advertised on their websites to whether they're an IRIS practice, but 15 out of 18 of the surgeries in Middlesbrough are, so it's worth speaking to your practice to see there. But there is a list of the IRIS practices on the My Sister's Place website if that's how people would like to get referred into the service.
Brilliant. And if there's other locations or areas that want to get involved with their own IRIS programme, can they contact you too? Or
absolutely. So
Jen?
In terms of how IRIS is set up, the organisation that we work with is IRIS Eye, and it's their flagship programme, and we deliver it locally. So a good step would be to contact IRIS Eye if somebody's thinking about that, and to get in touch with them and talk a little bit more about what it looks like to set up the area. But I would absolutely always welcome a conversation with anybody about who's thinking about setting that up, and we can have a chat about how we've done it in Middlesbrough, what we've learned along the way, what works and what doesn't work, and I'd be happy to work with anybody who is looking to do that.
Cheers, Leanne, and we'll share all of the details again at the end of the podcast, but I could speak about this all day. So thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much to Jen and to Leanne for taking the time to record this podcast and for setting up and running such a transformational program that is really helping and improving the lives of so many people across Teesside. Those contact details for My Sister's Place again. You can call them on 01642 241 864 or email reception@mysistersplace.co.uk. If contacting My Sister's Place directly isn't an option, then please speak to your GP surgery if you would like a referral to Iris. If you are a GP practice or work in primary care and would like to become more aware of domestic abuse, or simply for more information on Iris, please contact Leanne, the Iris Advocate Educator, via email at leanne.smith@mysistersplace.co.uk. Please get in touch if you have any feedback. Thank you so much for listening. Take care and see you soon.